Hello, I have a little announcement for all of you before we dive into the video. I'll keep this brief. If you're interested in skipping, I'll leave a timestamp. But basically, I've just launched my own clothing brand called Cœur. Cœur is the French word for heart. I picked that name because of how similar it is to the word courage. They actually have the same root, reaching all the way back to the 1200s from the old French word for heart. And even before that, they share the same Latin root, cor, C-O-R, which means heart. I picked this name because words hold a lot of power, words and phrases. Just like when I did the clothing drop, Amor Fati, this is a powerful reminder for myself because in my view, it takes a lot of bravery, a lot of courage to live life with an open heart. It's really not easy putting yourself out there, exposing yourself, being vulnerable, but it's worth it. Life is more beautiful that way. So I'm doing a limited drop with a few items. This is one of those items. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link down below. It's not going to be available for a very long time, and I only ordered a limited number of items. Thank you so much for all of your support. And now, let's dive into the video. Hello. 3.5 years ago, I recorded a video called A Video to My Future Self, in parentheses, age 25. And 3.5 years later, here I am, 25 years old. It's time to react to this video. At the time, I was living in Mexico City, and the thought of living in Paris, France was not even in my head, but here I am now, which shows you the crazy twists and turns that come with life. Since making this video, I've rewatched it a couple of times, but it's been a long time since I've seen it. It's been probably at least a couple of years. So I do vaguely remember some of the things that I put in here, but I don't remember everything. I'm curious to see my own reaction to this. I will say my initial thoughts are that 3.5 years can go by incredibly quick. And when I made this originally, 25 years old seemed so far away, but here I am now. Life's a trip. I looked up a video to my 25-year-old self. This is the first result. I don't know if that's the case for other people. Maybe it's because I made the video. But what comes up here is a very self-improvement-y, very, advice and whatnot. This video was recorded at a time where I was much more in that kind of like productivity, output, phase of my life, phase of my career. And so I do think it's fitting that these other videos come up when I looked this up. I feel like this is already a picture of a phase of my life that I feel like I'm no longer in. So I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, let's go full screen here. 4K. What's up, Nathan? For obviously selfish reasons, I hope you're doing well. Okay, I do recall trying to do that intro a few times because it was all coming out a little bit awkward. It is a little cringy rewatching it. I know what I was trying to do, but the fact that this was publicly posted does make it feel a little cringy, and I remember getting some comments about it. What's up, Nathan? For obviously selfish reasons, I hope you're doing well. 25 years old. That's a quarter of a century. I hope you're... Wow, that's funny. That's really funny. It's funny that I was using that terminology when I turned 25. I did a post on Instagram. I was like,
a quarter of a century, And
that was really reverberating around in my head, and I used that terminology here. It's interesting. I hope you're not freaking out and going through a quarter-life crisis. Please do not dye your hair blonde. We're off to a very millennial start to this video. So I can see here, and I'm not judging myself because I think this is how it goes when you're making videos on the internet, but I'm not super funny. I'm trying really hard to be funny. I'm trying too hard to be funny. And I can tell that I'm a little less comfortable on camera. I think it took me quite a few years and quite a few videos to get to where I'm at now in terms of just showing up and talking to the camera. I think I'm funnier when I'm not trying so hard. These forced jokes, they're not making me laugh. They're making me sort of like, not cringe, but like, I see what I'm doing here. The record, I'm gonna refer to you as you and me as me because I think we both know how much a person can change in the span of 3 years. In fact, in a weird way, what that kind of means is that I don't exist anymore outside of this video. This version of you is no more. I'm not sure how I feel about that. That is very interesting. It matches quite nicely to what I said even before starting this video. This version of me, that shows you the limitations of our language, doesn't exist anymore. I'm not interested in doing the things that I was interested in doing at that time. My approach to a lot of what I do has shifted as well. And one thing I was thinking about before starting this reaction video was to come into this with a high degree of compassion, because it's easy to cringe, it's easy to judge myself, but I really was, and I distinctly remember this, I really was trying my best. And this is what that looked like at that time. And your best changes, I think, day to day, week to week, year to year. I've been saying this a lot in recent videos, but the richness of my life continues to grow and expand. The quality of the people in my life continues to grow and expand, the relationships, all of it. And these moments are what led to where I am at now. So I can't regret any of this, honestly.
Really quick question. Are you still taking cold showers or was that just a phase? I reckon.
Okay, so cold showers. I did that for a full year. Then I stopped because my relationship with cold showers was becoming what I think is a little bit unhealthy. I would kind of beat myself up if I didn't do it, which I think misses the point entirely. So I stopped. I also stopped because when I moved to France, I was subletting in an apartment where there wasn't even a shower head attached, in the shower. So I'd have to hold the shower head as I kind of wash myself with soap. And that's extra difficult when you have cold water and you're going through that whole, you have to, cold showers for me require a lot of focus and, it's not easy. It's uncomfortable for a reason. So I stopped, but it's funny that I bring this up now because I picked it up again and I've been doing them quite regularly. I start hot and then by the end of the shower, it's full gas cold, and I really love it. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm enjoying cold exposure. I've kind of rediscovered it this year, and I want to incorporate it more into my life this winter in particular as a way to combat winter blues. So it's funny, full circle here. I stopped for a while, and I'm doing it again. Also, the dyeing my hair blonde, I don't think that's gonna happen, to be honest with you. But I did shave my head, and I didn't even think that I would do that at that time. I wasn't even thinking about going bald, as far as I'm aware, at that time. Yeah, it hadn't occurred to me yet. That's funny.
I recognize that what separates you and me are probably some of my best years in terms of health and energy. And I'm gonna do my very best to capitalize on that. But I think you and I both know I have a tendency to sort of overthink things and, just take things too seriously. Being the try-hard that I am, probably what's going to happen is I'm gonna cross the line of working too hard at least a dozen more times over the next few years. You already know this because you've lived through it, but I wanted to include this in this video because I want it on the record that I know it's gonna happen.
Interesting. Yeah, it's one thing to know something is probably gonna happen, know that something is in your nature, and another to have the level of understanding to not do something because it's unhealthy. What I mean by that is I think figuring out what is healthy and what the right balance is for you requires sometimes crossing the line, and I definitely have. I mean, look, recently I've been talking about really wanting to slow down and not juggle so much. Accurate and insightful, actually. I'm surprised.
In a weird way, your fate is in my hands. You trust me? This is getting kind of weird. I just want to say congrats on the hit Italian song that you made. I am speaking that into existence.
All right, that has not happened. I did release a song in English, and that was cool, really enjoyable experience. Check it out on Spotify, Frida, by Nathaniel Drew.
I am speaking that into existence right now. I also hope you enjoyed Tokyo and your first photography exhibition. It would be amazing.
Wow, okay. Tokyo, still haven't been, but I would love to go. The plan is to go next year. Photography exhibition. The plan is also to make that happen next year. So, good things take time, but I'm closer than I ever have been to doing those two things. So that's very interesting.
It would be amazing if you've written a book already, but I'm gonna stop listing things off that haven't happened yet because that's enough pressure already for the next few years. And it might be wildly inappropriate for me to be writing a book at my age. I guess we're just gonna have to see.
Interesting that I tried to discredit myself from writing a book to, I guess, maintain relatability. I've spent the last 2 years working on a book, but even honing in on an idea and approaching it properly, finding the right people to work with to bring that to life, and all of the whole labyrinth that is the publishing world is taking a lot longer than I thought. But it's gonna happen. It's definitely gonna happen.
I know there's a lot that you and I want to get to, but dude, it's not a race to the finish line. I hope that you're taking time every now and again to take stock and smell the roses and super cliche, but whatever. Finally, I wanted to share.
I feel like you can tell from the way this is cut that I'm really trying to keep it snappy and fun and relatable. But I don't know. What I'm saying, I agree with the core message. Here I am 3.5 years later, still trying to figure a lot of this stuff out.
Finally, I wanted to share a few of the things that I'm currently going through so that you can remember this period of your life. I hope that you don't feel like it went by too quickly. I'm doing my very best to squeeze the drop out of every moment, and my God, I sound like a millennial, don't I? So I moved to Mexico about 4 months ago.
That's funny, I made 2 millennial references, but I think technically I'm part of Gen Z. Not that any of that matters.
So I moved to Mexico about 4 months ago, and it's kind of hard to tell how you're gonna feel about things with the benefit of hindsight, but at this vantage point, this feels like it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I'm so glad I took the leap, and there are so many people that cannot seem to fathom why I made this decision, but I'm not complaining. It is so underrated down here.
Yeah, I agree. I still feel this way. I look back on that time as a very intense period, which intense is not a negative word for me, but a very intense period of growth, experimenting, a lot of output. The first time I was living on my own in a foreign country. I had lived with host families before then, but this was a big leap. I had a couple of Mexican roommates. Now, at the same time, the way I was living was unsustainable and I wouldn't go back to it. It was, I have fond memories. I went for it. That's something to always feel good about in life.
It's been a really eye-opening year so far. On one hand, I feel like I'm right on track and doing exactly what I should be doing. I'm lucky beyond belief to be able to make a living doing this, and I'm really hoping that this lasts. But I also have moments where I feel like I just do not have the emotional maturity to handle things, honestly.
Yeah, that's an accurate reflection. I do think I was right on the path that I needed to be. It's been amazing to see the doors that have opened. This is right around the time when my channel was blowing up. I remember in April of 2019, I got like 165,000 new subscribers, millions of views all of a sudden, and I didn't have any experience with this. So I didn't have systems, no way to filter things, and I was getting so overwhelmed. Definitely, there was a steep learning curve. Wow, a steep learning curve. I don't feel the same way now, but I think with time you get the chance to learn and adapt.
Struggling to find a balance between creating and letting myself go at my own pace. And I certainly hope that you have things a little bit more figured out than I do. My natural impulse is to just sprint ahead and keep going and keep pushing. But I'm realizing that, I already knew this, right, on some level, but I really am not a machine. What this is telling me is that I still don't have the best relationship with myself because I'm clearly trying to make up for some perceived inadequacies that I feel about myself.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is still very accurate, to be honest with you. I want to see if anybody's been commenting about this. Sorry, I got a little distracted here. Do you want to make a response video to this? Yeah, I think it's interesting, the parallels between then and now. Although I will say, I do think my relationship with myself has improved, and it's always something to work on. I don't know if it's necessarily a feeling of inadequacy that I feel. I also want to gobble up the world, and I genuinely am so curious and so excited to do and make things. But yeah, sure, fear is probably part of the mix somewhere in there.
There are a lot of new eyes on my work. As of me recording this right now, we just passed like 270,000 people, which is insanity. That's like 2 entire Ibizas. I'm just doing my best to sort of adapt.
Such a random example there.
To this new lifestyle and the pressure and responsibility, which is far beyond what somebody like me should have. On one hand, I think it's just all in my head, but on the other, can you imagine if it was a second Ibiza? I just started taking painting classes. That's been fun. Not exactly the next Picasso, but working on it. All right, painting time. This is quickly becoming like one of my favorite parts of the entire week, but I'm late every time.
Wow, interesting.
Currently, I'm dealing with some emotional issues that I have around money. Again, I hope that maybe you have things a little bit more figured out than I do. Finally, I'm spending a lot of time alone lately. I think I'm just trying to figure out the kind of life that I want to live throughout the rest of my 20s. I know that friends will play a big role. I just haven't quite found those people yet. It's okay. I'm more than willing to be patient. It's just been hard finding people that I can click with. But again, I know they will come. I'd love to have more photographer and videographer friends, and also people that just don't feel uncomfortable with depth and rawness. I'm not really sure if this is just my reaction to moving to a big city, or if this is just a phase, but it's where I'm at right now. I'm just doing my best, and that's gonna have to be enough.
That's really interesting. So this has to be the biggest difference between now and then, I think. Well, I don't know. Is that the biggest difference? There's a lot of differences, but one of the biggest differences between now and then is how I feel with regards to a sense of community, friendships, depth, people that I feel are aligned around me. I feel like that has completely changed. And I do deeply remember the feeling of loneliness that I felt at that time. I was at a loss on how to solve this, how to go about it. And now it's just crazy the amount of people that are in my life that inspire me, that I get to see on a regular basis. Moving to Paris and staying put in Paris has helped a lot, but I have friends around the world and my family has moved to Europe. There's just a lot of things that I think have kind of fallen into place. And a lot of the seeds were planted before the pandemic. This was like 6 months before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and then coming out of it, this shift in priorities. And now I'm really making a lot more time and a much greater effort to hang with people and to make things happen, you know? Go on trips, do the salons that I've been talking about, stuff like that, you know? That feels good. It feels good to see progress in a certain sense in that way. And not like in a numerical or career sort of way. It's really just, there's a lot of great people in my life now.
All right, I think I'm gonna end things there. Please take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.
Beautiful. I didn't cringe at that as much as I thought. There's a couple moments, but this was actually beautiful. I'm really glad I made this, and it's quite interesting to see the parallels between then and now. I think I already was on the right track, and it's been fascinating and wonderful to see a lot of the seeds that I was planting along the way begin to bear fruit. And it makes me very excited and optimistic about the future. It's a powerful reminder that life really is a marathon and not a sprint. Yeah, a lot can happen in 3.5 years, but at the same time, it goes by pretty quickly. Thanks for watching.